Lena, how are you? Welcome back to Forked.
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am good. I'm so pleased to be back with you here talking about the food and talking about the politics and sometimes about the food politics. But before we get into it, I want to talk about a cool thing that we're doing, and that is our first ever live taping. What do you think about that, Helena? How's that going to be?
I'm really looking forward to it. And people seem really excited.
I think they are excited. It's going to be on November 11th, 6 p.m. at Busboys and Poets in Washington, D.C. And we're going to do all the normal Fork stuff just in front of people. And we'll maybe have a special guest or maybe two. Now, the exciting part, at least for me and maybe for Helena too, is that it's already sold out. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think people are ready to hang.
They
They're ready
need
to
their
hang out with
forked.
us.
They need their forked, yes. However, for all those of you out there in forked land, you can keep an eye on Fern's social media channels in case we're able to add more people, which may be the case. And if you want to join our wait list, which is the place to be, send us an email at info@thefern.org and we'll see what we can do. All right. So let's jump in. You ready to go, Helena?
Let's do it.
All right. So we like to start every episode of Forked with the double take. And that is something that is happening in the food and politics world that just makes you, do a double take. It's usually bad. And in this case, it has to do with Donald Trump. Shocking. And his plan to lower beef prices by telling cattlemen in the United States to just cut the prices, while he is also simultaneously quadrupling imports of beef from Argentina. What the heck is going on here, Helena?
This is one of the wilder things I have watched unfold in agriculture. I think probably listeners of this podcast know that the agriculture community has generally been very supportive of President Trump.
That's to put it mild. That's
Very,
putting it
yeah,
mildly. Yes.
vast majority support. But the anger I saw responding to this, I guess we should say, rant
Well,
that,
let's start
that
with how it
President
worked.
Trump went on.
You were talking
Yeah,
about you came across his. It's not a
his
tweet. It was on Truth
it's a
Social. So what
it's
happened?
a it's a Truth Social post. He wrote, "The cattle ranchers, who I love, don't understand that the only reason they are doing so well for the first time in decades is because I put tariffs on cattle coming into the US. If it weren't for me, they would be doing just as they've done for the past 20 years. Terrible. It would be nice if they would understand that. But they also have to get their prices down because the consumer is a very big factor in my thinking also. I skipped over just a tiny bit, but you get the flavor. This
You
is
didn't say
straight
it in
up.
all caps though. I think you need to go back, do it
It
all over.
wasn't in
Do
all
it.
caps. It wasn't in all caps.
Okay.
So this really angered cattle ranchers for so many reasons. I think the first is this idea that they need to get their prices down.
Yeah.
Um, Most people in agriculture are price takers. Like the market sets the prices that they take, right? Like this is not some they don't come up with a magical price that they want, or they would always set the prices so that they would be profitable, right? Like, and the cattle market in the US is very cyclical. Like the herd gets bigger, prices go down, it causes like more sell off, smaller herds. Like I mean, we've seen these cycles go up and down. Right now, we have the smallest herd we've had since like the 50s.
Yeah.
So it is a really, really small herd, and prices are really high because demand is really strong. Part of that, I think, is also Maha, by the way. Like,
Yeah.
there's been a lot more conversation promoting red meat, telling people they don't need to worry about saturated fat. Like, there is a lot of that going on. So, strong demand, small herd. What do you get? High prices.
Well,
And
let's talk about those prices for a
they're mad.
second.
They were
Yes.
like, "Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I'm finally doing okay, and you're telling me to get prices down?" The anger I saw from ranchers on this was, I mean, they were pissed.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the prices for a second. And I agree that they are pissed, and they probably have a good reason to be pissed. So beef prices are up 15% over the past year, and according to federal inflation data. And rising beef prices are a major part of the overall increase in food prices that we've seen in the country. And one of the reasons that this is so angering, I would imagine, for the cattlemen is that in truth, they are not to blame. Right. So this is a subject that at Fern, this is a big part of our reporting. We have a story It's coming. It's not out yet. I can't talk too much about it, but just hyping it here a little bit on the cost of beef and why it is so high, and how that the real area to look at in this case is not the ranchers, it's the meat processors. And I think as you look at this issue and you hear him talking to the cattlemen and how angry they are, it's because they're aware of one, what I think is pretty salient fact, which is who is the largest donor to the Trump inauguration, to Trump's inauguration this time around. It wasn't Facebook. It wasn't anybody in the tech world, although they certainly gave their money. It was JBS, the largest meat processor in the world, which wanted to go public in the United States, and Trump made that a little bit easier. But also, maybe they might have something, and you'll have to read our upcoming story on it, to do with the price of beef in this country. So if you're a cattleman and you're a Trump voter, because those are usually two things that they're two great tastes that go great together, you don't like this. You have been blamed for something that is not your fault.
Also, I think the response is like, okay, if we want to talk policy, like, why don't we talk about taking on like consolidation in meat packing? Why don't we do labeling so that consumers actually know where their beef is from? A lot of the way labeling works now, like you can't tell where if you're getting imported meat, and
Yeah.
so there's just a lot of fury around this, and I think really it's like being gaslit, right? To say like you're the reason prices are high, and it's like, well, these are market forces. Not to mention we had a drought a few years ago that made feeding cattle really expensive and in some ways untenable, and like a lot of that was a natural cycle that happens, and so yeah, they were real mad.
I think it is. I just want to read a headline because I just thought this was pretty good. This was, I think this was in The Hill. Trump defies the America First agenda with Argentina beef plan. And that's part of where this is coming from, because he's trying to offset the prices by importing beef
Mhm.
from Argentina as part of a bailout of that country. And it's a pretty strange thing when you think about it. I mean, he's talking about all he's done for farmers and ranchers with tariffs, but he hasn't really done much for them in this case, because if you look at the numbers, the Argentina has shipped beef over the last 5 years, valued at more than $800 million to the United States. This is from the CEO of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, which is not somebody that I necessarily typically go to for information, but there he is. While the United States has they've only purchased from the United States $7 million worth of American beef. Now, if you look at the beef that Trump has with our trading partners, it is about that sort of trade imbalance. This is specifically why he is saying, among other reasons, that he is imposing tariffs on countries like Mexico and Canada and Japan and Korea and India and all the rest. It's that they are not buying as much from us as we are buying from them. That is not the case in Argentina. He is now bringing in more of their beef. It not only does it go against his voting base, it defies the logic of the Trump administration itself, which I guess is nothing new, right?
Well, even beyond that, it's my understanding that this isn't going to bring down prices. This isn't enough volume.
Right.
So, like, you've angered this constituency, this like very American sort of like pillar of the ag community. You've enraged them, and probably consumer prices will not come down because even if you quadruple Argentinian imports, like it's not really enough to move the prices meaningfully. And so I think Trump really walked into it with this.
It's
It's
just
gotten a
a
lot of blowback.
it's an itchy Truth Social finger. He can't stop himself. He's just going like this, or maybe it would be, I guess, be like this.
And it is, I do think there is a balance here
Yeah.
between like keeping a constituency happy and then also considering consumers. Like there are many, 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 many more consumers who are struggling with high food prices. And, the high cost of ground beef, like that is a real concern. That is squeezing consumers. And like, I get why politically you want to be focused on reducing prices, but the concern the cattle ranchers have is that if you lean on imports when prices are high too much, you will not rebuild the US cattle herd.
Right.
Like you won't have that. So there's like some really long-term choices that we're going to be making here.
I don't think it's a shock to find Donald Trump using a scapegoat for a political problem, but I want to end on this segment because we should move on. But there's a great quote. I just want to read it because it's in the New York Times, and they found a cattleman and they called him up and they talked to him. And he said, so it's Kyle Hemmert, a 61-year-old cattle rancher. Hi, Kyle, in Western Kansas. He said recently, it's really a kick in the nuts. Come on, President Trump. this is America First policy? No. So I think when we talk about the
I
cattlemen,
am
yeah,
impressed that their style guide
let him do that.
allowed that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm impressed that Kyle just, he just spoke directly to the issue, man. He just knew what he wanted to say and he was ready to go. All right.
Hey, that's one of the best things about farmers and ranchers,
Yeah.
honestly, is, like, if you really get them to speak their mind, like, they know what's up. They do.
All right, so let's move on to our next segment, which is forks and knives, the main meal, the thing that we think is important and that is happening in the food system right now. I just want to warn our listeners, as I have to do every once in a while, we are taping this. It is Monday, October 7th, and this will be at
27th.
27th, excuse me.
27th.
And it, excuse, we're not taping it that far in advance, and it will be out on Tuesday, November 4th. We always do it a week in advance, so take it a little bit with a grain of salt as we get into the snap cliff that we're headed towards with the shutdown. Helena, what the heck? What's going
Oh
on?
my gosh. So I just have to say, I truly hope that this has been figured out. I hope this is a historical segment where people are looking back going, wouldn't that have been crazy to go over the snap cliff? But
Yeah.
now we're into November and we're not going to do that. But I am worried that we are going to go over the cliff. So essentially, there isn't enough money to pay out November SNAP benefits. It's about $8 billion to pay out all of November SNAP benefits. And that comes from the federal government. The federal government is closed. There is no appropriations bill that we've had. So this is a real issue. Now, right now, we're seeing this kind of wonky fight play out because USDA does have a contingency fund. It's not enough to cover all 8 billion, but it's maybe somewhere between $5 and $6 billion. And
What is the contingency
congressional,
fund supposed to
yeah,
be for? What's that for?
it's for contingencies. Yeah. So there is some debate about what all is included in this. It has been used in the past in
Okay.
shutdowns. Um, USDA has said that it is not legally available now, in part because they consider contingencies to be like natural disasters. And we are about to, I guess we do have a hurricane barreling at the south or southeast
Yep.
as well, right? But
Yep.
um, there is going to be a lot of debate about whether or not the Trump administration is correct. I think it's possible there's litigation if this does not get resolved very soon. So courts will weigh in on this. But their determination is that this is not a contingency. They are not going to use this money because they could have taken, let's say it's $5.5 billion, and they could have paid out like the first 2 weeks of SNAP benefits, and the states would have had to scramble to do this logistically. Now, this is completely uncharted territory. Like this has never been done, doing prorated benefits or anything like it. So it is logistically very, very complicated. But with a lot of these things, usually if there's a will, there's a way. I think right now there is a possibility that this snap cliff applies enough pressure that it could like maybe end the shutdown or really force enough broad pain that this changes the dynamic. We'll see. We are talking about more than 41 million Americans. This is 1 in 8 households.
And the
There is
grocers
the
too.
potential,
There's the
the
grocers as
grocers,
well.
yes, the grocers are going to face less business. This SNAP is something like 12% of the US grocery market. This is huge. I cannot emphasize enough how huge this potential impact is. This is the elderly.
Yep.
This is, people with disabilities, households with children. I personally know households with several children, with families with low wage workers, and like this is so stressful for them. This is so, so stressful. And it's a couple weeks before Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
like
Helena, do you want to?
worst possible time. Yeah.
Normally, we talk about your newsletter at the end of the show, but do you want to talk about your policy regarding people on food assistance programs and Food Fix? I thought maybe I noticed that on your newsletter. I thought maybe you'd like to tell people about it.
Yeah. So I've ever since I launched Food Fix 3 years ago, I've always had a policy that, and a lot of people don't know this, but I've always had a policy that anyone participating in a federal nutrition program, so SNAP, WIC, free school meals, any of those programs, qualifies for a free paid subscription to Food Fix. So just email info@foodfix.co. Just email info@foodfix.co. Get on the list. I think it's really important for people who participate in these programs to be able to follow what's going on and track the policy debates around them. So I have a good number of folks on the list that participate in these programs. I get really good feedback from them. again, cannot emphasize enough how much of a disaster it would be if we go over this cliff. I really hope we don't, but it is October 27th, and there is no sign that this is going to be resolved. And it seems like we are going to go over the cliff.
So let's
The
talk
US
about the cliff.
government has
Yeah.
never defaulted
Defaulted
on
on SNAP before. So, but
SNAP.
let's
Nope.
talk about, all right, first of all, I just wanna say that is a great policy. You should be all of you who listen to Fork should be subscribing to Food Fix anyway, but if that doesn't
Yeah.
put you over the edge, I don't know what's gonna do it. That's a good thing. Good for you. So let that cliff. All right, so there's the cliff, and that is a disaster, and that is an apocalypse that we always seem to be on the precipice of during the Trump administration. But is it not also connected to the circumstances of the big beautiful bill, right? Like the cutting of federal money to the states is what the big beautiful bill is doing, and it is exactly the very thing that the White House and the GOP is saying is not a cut to SNAP.
So this really is actually different. So what the big beautiful bill did was shift more of the administrative costs and also some of the benefit costs onto the states. For the most part, those changes have not kicked in yet. The
Right.
states are going to be under a lot of duress when they do because they don't have a lot of extra money to deal with this. So that is major. Also changing the work requirements that limits people's eligibility. So that is a real issue, and
Yep.
that is we are staring that down. But this is like pulling the rug out of everyone.
Right.
This is not just the folks who are targeted by increased work requirements. This is like there are going to be hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of families that show up to a grocery store and maybe were not informed, maybe didn't get the message, and they are going to fill up their cart like normal, thinking that there is some help on their EBT card, and that EBT card is not going to work. There are some states who have not even really been communicating with their participants because they don't want to cause panic. And so there's going to be people who don't know.
Yeah. So
It's really, really bleak. Yeah.
let's talk about, I mean, obviously, that's bad. So let's talk about the political reaction to it a little bit. And I'm assuming, and I could be wrong, that you've been following the differences between the two parties on what they're saying about what this is, right? So walk me through what are they doing? What are they doing? And I don't mean what they're
So
doing in terms of negotiation. I mean, what are they doing in terms of
they're
message?
not negotiating.
Right.
I mean, this is like, I really do think, and I said this in the newsletter, I think both sides do not understand the full implications here for SNAP specifically. Like, I really don't think they understand how much they're playing with fire. So if you go to fns.usda.gov right now, there is actually a message on the top of the website that some are saying may violate the Hatch Act, which is like basically the law we have that tries to keep like campaigning and politics separate from federal agencies.
Yeah, this is kind of
Um,
crazy. Should we read it? Let's read it. I'll read some of it. So, Senate
yeah,
Democrats have now
got it.
voted 12 times to not fund the food stamp program, also known as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Bottom line, the well has run dry. At this point, there will be no benefits issued November 1st. We are approaching an inflection point for Senate Democrats. They can continue to hold out for health care for illegal aliens and gender mutilation procedures, or reopen the government so mothers, babies, and the most vulnerable among us can receive critical nutrition assistance. Before we talk about the meaning of all that, look at where we are in this country with messaging. I mean, this is the USDA
This is
website. And it
FNS. This
yeah,
is the Food and Nutrition Service,
yeah.
which is like a sub agency within USDA that usually does not get much attention, implements many federal nutrition programs, including school meals. Like, this is usually kind of a quiet, sleepy part of the internet, like wonky, people are coming here for like SNAP statistics, right? It is I mean, I don't even know the word for it. It is shocking to see this kind of language on that
Yeah,
website.
kind of
You usually don't see
brutal
political stuff.
partisan rhetoric, like partisan ranting, but in an ugly kind of, in terms of words, not deeds, but a violent language, right? Like
Yeah.
that's not.
Oh,
Go
oh,
ahead.
and if you go to USDA.gov, it's the whole page. I didn't realize that.
Oh, really?
So Oh my gosh, it's really big. It's
Oh,
the
yeah, that is.
whole
Yeah,
page.
that's right. It's too bad. Yeah,
So,
too bad we don't have a a screenshot for that.
screenshot.
But
Oh
FNS
my
is
gosh.
FNS is just the banner. USDA.gov is the whole enchilada at
Yeah, and
USDA.
I mean, like, not to go through it every point, but what they're saying here is that, Senate Democrats have voted against a clean CR because
Right.
they're trying to force negotiations on healthcare subsidies. We're going to not going to get into all the details there, but bottom line, the well has run dry is both like true and untrue, right? Like there is some contingency funding. They
Yes.
do have ability to move some money around, and so we'll see. Like someone is going to have to blink here. I wrote last week, this is like watching the worst game of chicken ever. Like
Right.
it's awful. So whoever's fault, whoever ends up getting blamed here, like this is going to hurt a lot of people if we actually go over this cliff. And so um I hope cooler heads prevail, but it doesn't look like right now that they will.
All right, so I think we should move on, and maybe more than ever, we need our last segment, which is a good vibe. We call it the good vibe. It's something in the food system that we find a little ray of hope, and I think this one is is pretty interesting. I don't know if you know this song. That'll be my introduction to it. It's a video. It's from I don't know when it's from, but it's peanut butter and jelly time. Peanut butter and jelly, peanut butter jelly, peanut butter jelly with a baseball bat. So what am I talking about, Helena? Do you know?
Yeah, so there was a study that just came out. I was trying to remember what journal. Oh, yeah, it was a
Pediatrics.
Journal of
Yeah.
Pediatrics that found that this doctors changing the advice and telling parents to do early allergen introduction prevented like 40,000 cases of peanut allergies, which is incredible. So basically, we realized we got it wrong by telling people to avoid allergens to try to avoid peanut allergies. They reversed course and like really dramatic results. This is very cool too. Is like I'm the mom of young kids. We actually did get the advice to do allergen introduction really early. You're supposed to do all the allergens like right off the bat, like between 4 and 6 months or something. It's like pretty early. This is incredible. This is great news that like public health, like that our research was correct, was messaged, implemented, and then like resulted in fewer allergies. So that's really great.
I
And
wanna
it also is a good reminder of like why this kind of research really matters.
Absolutely. I
So,
also wanna walk through some of the details of it. So, the basis of this, as I understand it, is that there was a study in 2015 that found that it would be better to introduce, allergens, to kids, potential allergens to kids at a very young age, things like peanuts, and expose them as early as 4 months. The thing that came out of this, and yes, they were able to prevent this many, I think the study said 60,000 actually, children from getting, food allergies. But the thing that they found by 2017 was that most doctors and most nutritionists, and I think that even still extends to today, were not following this guidance. So here we have this
oh,
potential, not a cure exactly, but a way to avoid this significant problem. And either the messaging isn't getting done, or the lack of trust, or maybe people are too hyped up about it. I mean, I can say for this is nearly 20 years ago now when I was still a fact checker at a magazine. I fact checked an article about peanut allergies being essentially overly hyped. Not that they don't exist, of course, but that the panic, the moral panic almost in our society about peanuts was not merited by the facts. This is a long-standing problem. It's not fixed yet, but it is nice that there is something out there that that could work, right? That's a good thing.
yeah. Although I will say, my kid's school is still peanut free, which is the default. So like you can't I had like in-laws here, you can't accidentally
Yeah.
send a peanut. It's really there are kids that have really severe allergies still, so it's
Absolutely.
definitely not solved. But thankfully, this seems to be a sign we're going in the right direction, and we don't have a lot of we don't have a lot of those stories right now. So
There are not a lot of
it's
good
great.
things going on there. I mean, I just wanted to yeah, I think it's just worth pointing out that it's not easily fixed, and that
Mhm.
the distrust that we sort of bump into, and maybe the misinformation that we bump into as we come here every 2 weeks and talk about these things, it ain't gonna be easy to root it out, even with this.
Mm-mm.
But in the meantime, we're gonna finish this taping, and I'm gonna go have a PB&J. All right. Helena, I know we already talked about your newsletter, but here we are coming to an end. Tell us about your newsletter. It's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, so if you're into food policy, which you probably are if you've listened to this podcast, you can get on the list. Go to foodfix.co, drop your email in. You can get it for free every Friday. And if you want to upgrade because you work in food, you can get it twice a week. And yeah, we'd love to have you there. And thanks for listening. I have gotten a lot more people coming up to me in person saying, love the podcast, regular listener, and it's been really fun. So thanks to the audience for being here.
I too have run into people who have heard the podcast. You know what they say to me? I really like Helena. That's what they say. So I guess I got to work on my delivery. In any case, Helena, thank you as always. It was a great conversation. I will look forward to talking to you in a couple of weeks, and that's all I got for today.
Yeah, and get on the wait list if you want to come see our live taping. So,
All right, thanks very much.
all right, thanks. Bye.